to the Couch Time Podcast, where we give you tools
That's right.
to connect with your kids and point them to King Jesus. I'm Josh.
I'm Steven.
And I am Aaron. And today we're going to be talking about boredom. We're going to be talking about what it is.
Gosh, this podcast is so boring, Aaron.
We're going to be talking about what it is it bad? Do your kids struggle with it? Do you struggle with it? And what can you do about it? So we're going to give you 5 things. But before we do that, man, we really, I don't know why we're going to do this. It's a podcast, but we're going to have an icebreaker. I don't know what ice needs broken, but Steven's got the icebreaker for us. So
All right, so I'm going to pull the polar bear out of my back seat and just crack her on down. That was a joke, guys. Polar bears can break ice. They're pretty heavy. So moving forward, what is your biggest hot take? So for me, I have a couple.
What a hot take is.
Oh, man.
So hot take, define that, Steven.
Okay, so a hot take is something that you think that most people would disagree with.
Ooh, I've got mine. Corn dogs and peanut butter go well together.
No kidding.
That's a great hot take. Corn dogs and peanut butter go great
Dude,
together. That's a great. But we all agree on that. So that's
Ooh.
great.
No, we don't agree.
Okay,
with
Josh
that.
does not
I
agree.
If you watch the corn dog commercial, Josh
almost
did not.
puked.
Yeah.
Here's a hot take. Joey Chestnut is the greatest athlete of all time.
I don't even know who that is.
Joey Chestnut, you should know this, is the man that just set the world record a couple days ago for the most hot dogs eaten in 10 minutes. This man, if you don't know him, you should. He has won 13 of the last 14 world championships.
Eating
hot dogs. The Nathan's hot dog eating contest. 13 of the last 14. He set the new world record this week, eating 75 hot dogs. And second place, I think, was at like 48. So it's not even. It's not
and
even
how much
close.
time? 75
10
hot
minutes.
dogs in 10. Oh my word!
Name any other athlete that has won 13 of the last 14 championships. He is the greatest athlete of our generation. My other hot take is that the Beatles are just pretty good. Their songs are pretty good, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the Beatles either, so I'm fine with that.
Josh, hot take?
Interesting.
Parents are gonna get ruffled by that statement. But
I don't know.
Your style is not hipster.
That's
a hot
true.
take. Everyone else would think it is.
Right.
dude,
My style is not hipster.
Josh's hot take that Josh is not a hipster.
I'm gonna drink
Drink his Carabello coffee as he messes around with sound and video equipment, wearing snapbacks,
You're wearing a snapback.
skinny jeans, and flip-flops.
this hot take is about to get hot here in a second as Josh and Steven go off. I don't have.
You already said one. Corn dogs and peanut butter.
Okay, so I don't get another.
Nope.
The ice is broken.
The ice is broken. Parents, the ice is now broken. If you ever find your kids bored, ask them for a hot take.
I'm still not 100% sure what a hot take is, but we are going to move on here into talking about boredom. I was not getting bored with that. I was actually being entertained and wanted to talk more about it, but sorry. It's all good. So, if I were to say the word bored, I'm pretty sure all of our listeners would have some kind of idea of what that is because they've been bored in their past, in their lifetime. At some point, they have memories from childhood being bored. We all have memories of being bored.
And I just saw The Big Green on Disney Plus.
That is
and
an
there was
excellent movie.
It's a great movie, and I just remember the classroom scene. Keep going.
Yes.
And isn't there a TV show on, I think, Nickelodeon where there's like a talking board or plank or something like that? What is that, guys?
I have no idea.
Like
I don't know. We need to get some sound cues in here
Yes.
for sure. So I'm going to give you 2 definitions. Apparently,
Just go. We didn't laugh. Go.
there's a video in the show notes we're going to link that has to do with apparently.
Maybe.
So there's 2 definitions I'm going to give on boredom, but if you do research, it is a very hard thing to define. So, Stephen and Josh, here's a couple definitions to just get us all on the same page as we move forward talking about this. According to Google, boredom is the state of feeling disinterested in one's surroundings, having nothing to do, or feeling that life is dull. The second definition comes from Smithsonian Magazine, and they say it's a state in which the sufferer, they call it, so boredom is suffering, a state in which the sufferer wants to be engaged in some meaningful activity but cannot, characterized by both restlessness and lethargy. So boredom is a big deal because I think everybody struggles with it. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But two things that I want to talk about as it relates to some questions we're going to ask in a bit. There's two types of boredom. One is situational and circumstantial. So as far as like, I'm bored right now.
Because I have nothing to do.
I'm
or
in
not
class
interested.
and I'm not interested in this subject, and my teacher is so bored. Like, I'm bored.
Right.
So that's situational. But then there's this bigger picture, existential, which is people who lack meaningful drive and purpose. They're bored with life. So there's this bigger, they're just kind of lethargic. So I actually see students who struggle with both and adults that struggle with both. And there's times in my life where I struggle with both. But we're going to talk about it moving forward. So Stephen and Josh, question, what does boredom look like in your life?
So I've had the boredom before.
That's a great way of saying it.
The boredom has came to me several times. So when I had the boredom in my life, I think there's a couple different aspects. So sometimes it'll be like, I think it'll be both of those. So sometimes it'll be I get home, none of my roommates are home, no one has texted me that day to ask to do anything, and I'm at my apartment and I'm like, well, I have absolutely nothing to do for the rest of this evening. And it's like, I'm a person that likes to be active. I like to be doing things. I like to be around people. Even if I'm not like talking to them, I'd rather just be around them. So I'll just be like, man, I have nothing to do. This is awful. I'm bored. And then also like, sometimes I can be like going places or be around people and still be like bored, as if none of this, like I'm just driving from here to there, or I'm just with this group of people, but we're not really like doing anything. Like we're just kind of hanging out. But it's like that can be boring on like a deeper level, which I think is like what you're talking about, where it's like I can be going, but if it was all like seemingly pointless for an extended period of time, that also is like boring, and I wanted to like do something to like feel adventurous or feel like I'm doing something purposeful or meaningful.
Bored.
I'll say I feel like when you're maybe this is a big jump right here, but I feel like if you're married and have kids, the first aspect of boring doesn't happen as much. Am I wrong? Because it's like there's always people to keep you doing stuff.
I'll see. We'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about that here in a second as I answer my own question. But Josh, go ahead.
So it's been a minute since I've been bored, but like, I mean, I know that feeling very much so, just like not being interested. And so like a lot of times that translated to me just mindlessly scrolling on social media, watching YouTube video after YouTube video, or just kind of feeling like, what is there to do? Like, I don't know what to do. And it's almost like, it almost caused like angst is like the only word I can think of, where it's like, I want to be doing something, I just don't know what. And so it's like angsty, like / frustrating, that it's like I feel like there's things to do, I feel like there should be things to do, I just don't know what it is. And so that's sort of a lot of the feeling / and some of like what I did when I was bored.
Yeah. So, and I forgot to say, parents, part of the reason why this topic was picked is because it's summertime, and I think boredom is something that comes up that I've been hearing a lot. So, I think it's worth taking a listen and having an understanding and maybe some ideas about what you can do about it before you hear from your kid this summer or your kid's friends, especially coming out of quarantine. But to go on to answer my question, what does boredom look like in my life? Stephen, to your point, I am married. I have kids. So my boredom might look different than your boredom being a single guy. But my boredom actually with anything comes from forgetting the importance of why I'm doing the thing. So I get bored when tasks and responsibilities become menial and just tedious.
For sure.
And I forget why I'm doing it. It's like, I'm so bored. This is annoying.
And you're probably not getting to do
So
the things that you would personally just like to do as much.
so
So it's like
selfishly,
you
it's like-
miss that.
I would rather be yes. So
It's that
I
bumper
get
sticker. I'd rather be.
I
fill in the
get
blank.
bored reading books to my daughters, and that sounds terrible to say.
Nope.
Like that gets
get
terrible to say, but at some point, I'm over reading books to my daughters,
Same one.
and
Yeah.
and the same books over and over and over. And I literally have memorized children's books because I've read them so many times, and there's so few words. Like I get bored because I forget why I'm doing it. So when it switches to my entertainment,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I'll start to get bored when it stops entertaining me, but I have to remind myself of why I'm doing it. So boredom for me looks like doing repetitive things over and over and over to the point where I don't enjoy it anymore, and I want something else that I do want to enjoy. So that's what boredom looks like for me. Next question, and this is going to get a little bit tense, and I'll answer first because I just started to get there. But where do you turn to solve boredom? So for me, when that happens, my default is to look at my phone, social media, try to consume some information or something like that that makes me laugh or that can kind of jolt my mind into productive thinking, as I maybe will call it, or I will turn to something entertaining. So I'm going to go listen to something. I'm going to go watch something. I'm going to go out and start a project in the garage. I'm going to go downstairs. I'm just going to start cleaning something. I don't even like cleaning, but it's like I just have to start doing something that is not what I'm doing right now. So
Yeah, that's really good.
what do you guys think?
What do we turn to?
Yeah, what do you turn to solve when you catch the boredom?
When you get the boredom,
When you get the
Josh, you
boredom,
kind of
it's-
answered this a little bit.
Yeah, that and just like even just like
So not
watching
where,
TV
but not
or-
where should you turn to, but
No.
where do you turn
Yeah,
to?
like it. I actually feel
I
like,
fast and pray every
Well,
time.
I actually feel like
Yeah, like we all, yeah.
recently, my wife and I have actually gotten better at this, but like, it can just be so easy to like go to watching a TV show or a movie or like, Songland or The Voice.
Jeez, I
Voice
didn't know what you were about
Australia.
to say.
There's just like you're saying, anything that entertains. So anything that I can like just shut my brain off and just like absorb. That has historically been a place where I've like turned like social media and stuff.
Yep.
I feel boredom with I'll get super super into something for maybe 3 hours, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 6 months. It's really hard to know. Most of the times it's something that I can learn about, even though the learning about that thing may not prove to really do anything for me. So like I'll get onto YouTube and I will just learn everything about like how to skateboard. And it's like I don't even have a skateboard to even begin trying to skateboard. But I will tell you, like I could explain to you how to do a kickflip, a pop shove it, a double, like a heel flip. Like I know how.
Can 9000.
I'll get super into chess and I'll like just study why are people good at chess? Why am I not as good as them?
So
I'll-
Steven will literally reach out to Josh and I and be like, "Hey, do you guys want to play chess?" And then a week later, it's like, "Hey, you guys want to go skate?" It's like, dude, make up your mind. What is going on?
I find myself, now that we're thinking about it, I think I get bored in the car a lot. Like the most probably is where am like the most bored. And I think it's just because I'm like just driving around by myself and like just trying to get to somewhere. So I'll just like listen to people talk on YouTube about just anything. So whether it's about MMA, whether it's about sports, whether it's about chess, whether like I'll watch people play chess in the car. Like I won't actually watch it, but I'll listen to their game. And I won't even be able to follow along, but just like to have the sound of like someone talking. I'll just things and watch videos on YouTube, or I will just like text someone and ask if they want to go do something. If they say no, then I will be sad and more bored.
Do either of you guys struggle being left alone with your thoughts?
Josh loves it.
I used to, and now when I can get that, it's amazing.
Yeah. Steven, do you struggle with that?
Yes and no. So like On long car rides, 75% of the time, I'm just silent. I don't have videos on. I don't have music on. I just drive and just enjoy the drive, and I'll just be with my thoughts. But like most of the time, I don't enjoy it. Like I'd rather like be doing something or be with somebody or be listening to something. So yeah, most of the time I like turn off just being left by myself with my thoughts.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm not gonna answer that question. I'm just kidding. I actually I love being left alone with my thoughts. I'm like a slow processor. The joke is I'm a crock pot. You know, I need lots of time to think, you know, before I can spit out any tasteful product. You know, Steven is a microwave. He can just, I mean, he'll crank it out, you know. I need lots of time, you know, if we're comparing ourselves to me being left alone with my thoughts. I usually have a ton of things that I need to be thinking through, and so having quiet time is helpful for that. But sometimes I just want to veg out, and so I'll turn on music while I drive in the car or something. It's like I can't take one more podcast or one more audiobook. Like I just have to turn off and let my mind go. So it kind of depends. But boredom for me happens when I'm tired of whatever I'm thinking about, and I want to think about something different sometimes. So, so here's a question before I tell you my answer. Do you think being bored is bad? Parents,
No.
I know you probably have answers to this too, so I'm curious.
I
But
think it's what you do with boredom that can be bad or not.
You know, say it can be very helpful being bored because it either one causes you to like calm down, to sit back, to think through life, to think through where you're headed, bigger picture, what you're doing, what you're accomplishing, as well as can like make you kind of jump out of a routine and get into something that you normally wouldn't do, or like have a new experience that you normally wouldn't experience because now you have this free time or this extra like motivation to go to like reach out. Or maybe like I've reached out to people I wouldn't normally reach out to when I'm bored, and in which case like I can extend friendships or like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
I think you're exactly right. Boredom isn't bad necessarily, but this is where we're going to talk parents and get into some ideas and stuff that we think that is good for your kids, especially going into summer. I've been hearing a lot more kids say that they have been very bored over quarantine and that summertime is now here, but expectations for summer is not hitting all of the like, oh my gosh, we're out of quarantine summer, and it's like it's falling short, I think. And so kids are bored, some of them, not all of them. And there might be this high that they're all on right now because they're getting to do all this stuff, but boredom is going to set back in. School is going to set back in. I think talking about stuff, I think this is a good topic to talk about. Boredom, I don't think is bad, but it can be bad. Depends on what you do with it, Josh, as you said. I think boredom is a normal outcome, you know, just of life and circumstances. Like we are going to have to do things that we are going to find boring. Yeah. We are going to have to listen to people that we find boring. This podcast might be boring you right now. I don't know. Right. But you're listening to it, maybe not because it's entertaining to you, but because you're wanting some nuggets of some, like, what can I do, or ideas. You know, boredom is something we're going to have to learn to deal with, and teens are no different. So my question right now is, Josh and Steven, how do you see boredom affecting kids in your ministry? So, like 30 seconds, how do you see kids being affected by boredom in your ministry?
I mean, I think it's a lot of things we talked about. There's boredom equals a lack of interest in something usually. And it can lead to frustration. I mean, Jeremiah 17 says the heart is deceitfully wicked. So it can also go towards like just this like either apathy or just like it can be easy when you're bored to just narrow focus on just being selfish, and like so it's like some of those things can just easily play into boredom with students.
Yeah, I'd say boredom with students probably isn't much different than like boredom with me. Like when I think about it, like I don't think they're that much different than me. In which case I think boredom leads to yeah, just trying to fill your head with different things, entertainment.
Yeah.
And then also like I think boredom can lead kids into a dark hole as well of like if they get into their thoughts too much and they don't know how to properly control them and properly switch them on to different things, I think that's when like so we talked about like what lies are is the enemy been telling you, stuff like that. I think that happens most when you're bored. Like for me at least, like I feel like the most like lies I hear are when I'm just bored and I'm like wrestling with life, and it's like that's when I hear negative things.
Yeah.
That would be like the negative side effects of
Very
boredom.
interesting.
That's really good.
Some dude, I'm going to quote here. I don't remember his name, but I'm quoting him. I think it sounded spot on. But he said, boredom is therefore a vital problem for the moralist since at least half the sins of mankind are caused by the fear of it. He was talking about boredom. So people who are moralists, which are, Christians are moralists. We believe in morals. We believe in God's law that he's given us, and there's things that we should do and things that we should not do. And boredom, he's saying, is people are scared of boredom because of what it will cause in them. So it's interesting. You said sins. So I'd be curious as far as like naturally you don't want to be bored because you don't want to have to fight against things you know are wrong. And for students and teens, and I've struggled with the same thing, but for students and teens, maturity as far as spiritually, but then even emotionally and physically, just trying to figure out and know that about yourself, I think that's called vigilance in some ways, which is a good thing. So my next question is, so Stephen, so this can be personal, Josh and Stephen, or it could not be, but talk about how boredom becomes a problem. Like, so when does boredom become a problem for students and teens specifically is where I'm wanting to go.
I think it's a little bit of what you said, like whenever you try to fill the void. So like I just read in Romans 1 this morning and how it talks about like exchanging the truth of God for a lie. And it can, just because naturally without, especially if your student's not a believer, it's like to not have the hope of Jesus to change any desire is like that you can just, it's an opportunity for selfishness. But like we are constantly wanting to fill ourselves with something. We are made to be satisfied and to desire really we're made to desire Jesus. We're made to desire God, to worship him.
Go on with it.
But if we don't go in that direction, then that's not, we're going to seek everything else, and it's just going to spiral us down. So that's it was a little bit of what Stephen was saying earlier, I think.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
super good.
often I think I need to be bored to do the right thing. Like
Wait a sec. You just said you need to be bored?
I don't know if I need to be bored, but like oftentimes boredom causes me to think more creatively and like do things more purposefully, like do more meaningful things. So like, so sometimes like I fill that void, but with good things, like with things that are God honoring, and like I need to be bored to get out of my like normal, like just routine habits of purposefulness. I just made up a cool word. Feel free to tag me.
Purposelessness.
So boredom's bad when it just continues on purposefulness. Like when it
Without purpose.
yeah, when it that's two words.
Purposelessness. It's a word. Yeah.
Thank you. So I think boredom becomes a bad thing for students when like it just leads deeper into things without meaning, things that don't honor the Lord, like things that just become all about you. But boredom can be very good when it causes you to wrestle with thoughts in a God-honoring way, when it causes you to reach out to people that you wouldn't normally, when it causes you to like open up God's word because you're like, man, I'm bored. Wow, maybe I should like read God's word. Lots of different times it can be a very, very good thing.
So go ahead.
I just wrote down these two things. I was reading an article from Desiring God, and one of the things that came to my mind as I read it is the phrase "I'm bored" is actually, I think, an invitation into your child's life because they're saying, I don't know what to be interested in.
Yes.
And so, like...
So, Mom, every time you've ever yelled at me that only boring people get bored... I'm kidding, Mom. I love you, and it was very helpful because often it was just me complaining, not me.
So that brings up that's a great, and there's an article on that you can find
Yeah.
in the show notes. Which, yeah, go read and check that out. But so if boredom isn't a bad thing, and boredom actually, it sounds like Stephen, you're saying can be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. What the heck do we do? Do we encourage it or do we try to avoid it? So with parents, especially if I had to guess, parents, you have been annoyed with your kids being bored. And parents that I've talked to and seen do this, and I'm even tempted, I just want to entertain my children. Mm-hmm. Like, Dad, I want this. Dad, I want this. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to break from your requests on me, so I'm going to entertain you. Mm-hmm. And then when they start to get bored, they're asking for more things. It's like, just be content and stop asking questions. Yeah. The temptation is for us to entertain them. Yeah. And I want to suggest that parents, you need to not entertain your kids. Mm-hmm. And that's a and I don't mean this insensitively, but I think it's a pandemic that we've got for parents who just entertain their kids, and create this stimulus feeding animal that it's just you're constantly stimulating. It's like, go watch this, go do this, here's another. It's like, no, and boredom isn't bad necessarily.
I get it. Like my daughter keeps coming up to me and says owls, because there's a show called Allegories on Amazon Prime, and she's just like, owls, and I'm
Al
like,
Gore? Is that what you said? You let your child watch about Al Gore?
Allegories.
Oh, okay. Oh,
goodness.
Okay.
But like, I like as we've kind of like we've like kind of let that go a couple times, and it's like now we've realized actually we're training her on this, and I was even thinking like boredom's not necessarily a problem to be fixed, but a mindset to train. And it's like,
that's good.
Like right now, like for a little bit there, my wife and I were training our daughter to, when she's bored, when she's done with her toys, to ask for this TV show. And even though it's like a Christian thing, like it doesn't, we need to train her to do other things. And I think what's hard is like training takes time. And like, it's very like parents. One of the things I want you to hear is we get it. It's difficult. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's not necessary and helpful. And so I think I just want to encourage that aspect of it. It's not your goal shouldn't be. I can fall into the trap of boredom. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed so I can just
for sure
stop asking me. But it's not. It's a problem. It's a mindset to train.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's super good.
Yeah, I was just say I think one of you guys said earlier, but I've like seen my parents like take advantage of our boredom to like spend time with us and to like, I know like my mom went on a hike with my little brother the other day. I don't know why, but I assume Ethan was probably bored. Like I like so there's opportunities when like of us are bored and you can take advantage of that to like find things to do with your kid.
Yeah. So I just looked at the time and realized that this is going.
You didn't look at the time this entire time?
No.
I've been staring at it literally this entire time.
So Steven's been bored and staring at the time this whole.
I'm very time conscious. Sorry, you guys will learn that about me.
Or we're really boring, which is fine. So parents, whether you've been bored or not, this might be one of the longest podcasts we've done, which is ironic potentially, but maybe not. Hopefully it's helpful. But here are, I want to give you guys 5 things. We want to give you 5 things that are ideas. We've already talked on them a little bit, and then there's some resources in the show notes. But number 1 encourage creativity. So, Stephen, you said that. That's something, these are 5 ways that you can train your kids, that you can help teach them how to use boredom. So, encourage creativity, help find important goals. So, that might be, even for yourself, parents, as I said earlier, I have to remind myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And if the goal is something stupid, then it's like, go find something that's meaningful, even if it's tedious, even if it gets boring. Reminding yourself of the why is motivating and helpful. The third thing is encourage rest. That's something kids don't like, but it's not just rest physically, but rest mentally. So being alone with your thoughts.
Screen time.
Yeah, being
that.
like eliminate any kind of entertainment or stimulus and force boredom, because rest is something God commands, first of all. But secondly, it's a way that we can remind ourselves of who God is, who we are, and meditate on thoughts maybe longer than we want to. So it's like working out. So a muscle grows when you work out by lifting something past the point of what is healthy. So you damage your muscles, which actually in turn makes them stronger. It's the same for us with our minds. We need to mentally force ourselves to think about things that maybe we don't want to, if we want to get stronger and better and healthier. So were you going to say something on that?
Solitude. I heard a definition in a book that said solitude is the absence of other voices. So like whether it's music, TV, video game, whatever it is, I would say it's good to have the absence of other voices other than the Lord's. So
I would say this is probably one of the reasons that you see so many people like come to faith in Christ at camp, is because finally they have to ponder on thoughts longer than they normally would.
That's an excellent point. Yeah.
So like the questions of life that they normally could turn off very quickly, we ponder for longer. Now, camp is not boring. It's very not boring. But you do like not have the normal entertainment distractions to get away from the thoughts.
That's why we say turn off your phone. We're not going to have social media. That's why we tell them not to bring electronics. But I'll say, Stephen, that's an excellent point. At camp, middle school camp especially, the kids are just like, what are we doing next? 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 It's just this constant, they want to be, and then we give them free time, and they have to go figure out stuff to do, and they're left thinking about things longer than they normally would be, which is it's partially why we do camp. It's good. So that third thing was encourage rest. The fourth thing and fifth thing are really challenging, but I would encourage you to do is help your teen, your students, to name their real emotions. So if you just say I'm bored, that's just a catch-all, when really what somebody means is I don't like what I'm doing, or I've got other things on my mind that I'm struggling with that are burdensome, and I'm needing something to relieve that stress. So it's like I'm wanting to turn to something to relieve. It's like let's get a little bit deeper and figure out what is driving your lethargy or your discontentment. Or it's not always just boredom. Boredom isn't a feeling. That's the product of feelings, I think. So name feelings and emotions. The fifth thing is encourage things without end goals. So our culture, I think, is we are a product of what we do. I think is a temptation for teens, for anybody. It's this identity that is wrapped up in what we do is who we are, and that's not what God says about us. And so there are lots of things we can do and enjoy, and it has nothing to do with the end result. It's, hey, we're going to go invest in our relationship and talk about things just because that is the goal. Yeah. It's not, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? It's like, you know what, let's just go start a conversation. Like, I don't know, we're hanging out, we're spending time, we're building relationships. So I would encourage you to do things without end goals. So participate with things with your family and your kids. So
yeah, just two quick things. Also, practicing gratitude is huge, and serving others, I think, really, really helps with that.
Super good.
And I think it's time for us to stop.
It is the longest podcast
yes, ever. So,
and Stephen is bored.
Yeah, no. I will pray for us as we move forward. So, Jesus, I want to thank you for being our King, for being the one who you are not boring at all. You are awesome. You provoke awe. You provoke wonder. You are the one who gives purpose and meaning. And I just want to thank you for that. And I just want to ask, Lord, as parents who have different students at different phases of life, sometimes it can be harder the younger they are to think about these things. But Lord, I just want to ask that you would be near, that you would help give wisdom to these families to know, how do I get my kid involved, on board with this plan of what do I actually do with boredom? And Lord, I want to ask, just even as boredom comes up, Lord, would you use that as a space for your Spirit to work, to draw kids either to yourself for the first time or to you in a deeper way? Would you be the encourager of parents? Would you would you cause your gracious and kind Spirit to just be working? We love you, and we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.